An update on our breaking news story this hour. Violent clashes have erupted in the streets of Brussels. Images for you now from the Belgian capital. Police have tried to disperse violent protesters at the end of an otherwise peaceful rally. Now, unions organised these protests, and it was all against new labour reforms which will see the pension age rise, limits put on wages and public spending cut. Part of an austerity package that's being pushed through by the government to keep its budget deficit within EU standards. Let's get some analysis now on the situation from Marissa Matthias, sociologist working in the area of environment and public health and a European MEP of the Left Bloc, who joins us on the line now. Hi Marissa, if you can hear me okay. Now, tens of thousands of people are out on the streets of Brussels, and as I understand, it's just the start of a planned month-long campaign. What does that say about worker anger?
I think it says a lot about the situation, not only here in Belgium, but also in Europe, because workers have been attacked everywhere in terms of his rights, of their rights. If you think what is happening in Europe with the adjustment programs, with austerity measures, what is happening is that in the name of the financial markets, all the workers' rights have been cut. Not only the wages, but also the rights and the capacity to continue to know what are the main guidelines of the European societies, because nowadays I think we don't know it anymore. The proposals that the government was presenting have to do with that, has to do with the fact that they want to cut on salaries, they want to cut on pensions, to increase the number of years that people have to work for less money. And of course, as we saw in several European countries, especially in the southern Europe and in Portugal, where I'm from, what we see is that these measures do nothing but increasing the social problems, the economic problems, bring the recession, and we destroy what we were used to know as the European social model.
Marissa, it's clear from what we've seen that these protests are well organised and that there's a lot of people out on the streets, but will they have an effect, do you think?
Sorry, the last part of the question I didn't understand.
Yeah, I mean, clearly well organised and popular, but will they have an effect?
I hope so. I hope so. If they don't protest, they will have no effect at all. So we have been seeing a lot of changes in some other countries. For instance, in Greece, in Spain, huge movements of protesters, organized movements, trade unions. They have been able to change the political scenario in their countries. So I think that when workers organize themselves in order to protest, they expect to have an effect. And all around Europe, austerity is provoking this effect, which is to bring people to the streets, sometimes with immediate effects in the change in the political system, sometimes not. But I do hope that this has some effect. At this moment, we are not only talking about some southern European countries, we are talking about measures which are affecting the entire countries, the entire Europe, as these measures are already arriving in Central Europe, like in Belgium or in France. Austerity measures as a recipe are being applied. So I do hope that this has an effect.
As you said, the austerity aimed at fitting the Belgian budget within what the EU wants as part of its constraints. Why do you think these constraints are clearly so tight?
I honestly don't understand, because if you see what are the European policies in these areas over the last years, there were some objectives. The main objectives were first to reduce the public debt, to reduce the deficits, and also to promote investment. After some years of application of these recipes in some of the countries, what we see is more recession. We see that every year the European institutions have to revise the prospects for growth and for recovery, economic recovery. We are still far away from having economic recovery. So these measures are really tight, but in the end, the effects that they are having are just counterproductive, because the debts are increasing, they are not being reduced. The deficit can be somehow controlled, but by only reducing public expense, which means to cut in the education, to cut in health services and healthcare, and at the end, recession is there. We don't have any kind of economic recovery, and in terms of monetary policy, we can see also it is being a disaster. We are now facing a possible scenario of deflation. So the outcome of these measures, so tight measures, is just to reinforce the crisis that we are living, not having any objective which is defined to be accomplished. So I think that this is a way, a very fast way of destroying the European project itself. So what can be the meaning of this? I only see one meaning, which is try to save the financial markets, trying to put the profits again in the place, but
Marissa, I do apologise. I'm afraid we've literally run out of time, but thanks so much for coming on to speak to us. A few difficulties with the line there, but we do appreciate you coming on. That's Marissa Matias from the Confederal Group of the European United Left.